We are live.
I'm gonna say good morning to everybody. Time I got is 10:04. First, I would like to send greetings to each of you, the citizens, and everybody who's able to join us on today's meeting on February 23rd. I thank you all for joining us. We will now call this meeting to order. Beverly, can you please start the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
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 Good morning. Chairman Cody,
Present.
Director Emister,
Present.
Director O'Halloran,
Present.
Director Leggett,
Here.
Director Odell, Director Robinson,
Present.
Director Stone,
Present.
Director Adams. He is present for the record. Director Lockett,
Don't say about
and
it.
I have you, Director Adams. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now that we have a quorum of the board, we move into adopting the agenda for today's meeting. I'd like to call on Commissioner Helen Stone and sharing a few remarks for one of our long-standing board members, honorary member, that is Mr. Pete Lakakis. Director Stone, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. For some reason, technically, I do not have the resolution in front of me.
Yes.
But what I'm going to tell you is that Pete Lakakis has served this community above and beyond what most citizens could even dream of. I first met Pete when he was on city council, and he was helping some of the flood victims with a rowboat or some type of a little paddle boat. He wasn't going to wait for anybody else. He was going to take matters into his own hands. And I think that pretty much describes Pete Lakakis in his selflessness, his service to this community. As you all know, he served on city council for many years. He was the chairman of the county commission for 2 terms. He's been involved with Chatham Area Transit for, I think, since about 2006, 2008. But what the man has done for his community goes beyond the pale of public service. So I just want you all to know that it's an honor to have him as an emeritus member of this board. And we certainly wish him in his retirement all the happiness in the world, because Pete, you absolutely deserve it.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Don't need you didn't mic. All right, thank you, Ms. Stone.
Yes.
The chairman, he's muted.
Got me. All right, thank you, Ms. Stone.
You're welcome.
All right, we are all appreciative of Mr. Lakakis' ongoing services to the board and this community. Next up on the approval of today's agenda, do we have a motion to approve today's agenda for February 23rd?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Beverly. Can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I've got a discussion point.
Yes, Mr. Emerson.
Give me one quick second. I'd like to pull item 1 and 3 from the consent agenda.
I want to note you want to pull regular board meeting minutes from 1/26/21 and extension of COVID-19 emergency measures.
Yes.
Can we note that, Ms. Dumas?
Yes, sir. We have that noted, so we'll move that to individual action items for
I think
discussion.
that needs to be voted on.
Correct.
Take a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Director Lockett,
Here.
and Director Lockett, just for the record, we're voting on the. One second.
Does it need to be voted on? Excuse me. Sorry.
Director Emister.
Does pulling items from the consent agenda need to be voted on?
Yes.
I don't, can we get some legal advice on that?
Yeah, because this is new. We pulled things before and not gone to a vote. So I'd like some legal on that as well.
I'd like a point of order on from
There's no-
somebody.
There is no need for a vote on that. If an individual member of the board wishes to pull an item so that it may be discussed, it doesn't require a vote.
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
Ty.
All right.
Okay, Chairman, I have it noted. We're pulling item 1 and 3 from the consent agenda for individual action.
All right. All right. Next, we have the consent agenda for approval. So we have one new item added that we were expecting to see. That is the budget calendar year, fiscal year 2022. Do we have a motion to approve items before us on consent?
Okay, well, I will approve the consent agenda with the understanding that we're pulling 1 and 3 and that we're adding the budget issue.
All right.
Okay, thank you. We have,
Roll call.
do we need a second for that motion?
But are we talking items 1, 3, and 4? Are we adding another budget issue?
2 and 4. Those are the 2 items remaining on the consent agenda.
Okay, explanation on the adding of,
Budget.
yes. Chair, can I get an explanation? on-
We're adding the budget calendar for the fiscal year 2022.
Yeah, that wasn't brought up at governance. That's been added since at the chair's discretion.
No, what I'm asking is, do I have a copy of that calendar?
Ma'am.
Yes.
It was in the board package.
Is that the one on page 2? What I'm looking at, where we talk about March 30th, April 30th? Is that what we're talking about specifically? Okay, I've got it. I just want to make sure I had a copy of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right. All right. Do we have a motion?
I made the motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, Bevan, let's do a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you. Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
You already called me one time. I'd say yes.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was, she called
Director
Director Lockett.
But for Director Leggett, yes.
Okay, and Director Lockett,
Yes.
thank you, sir. Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Director Emister,
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
All right, moving on to action items. We have one item remaining on as individual voting item for the payment of Cat's attorney fiscal year 2019 legal fees. It was already explained the reason on the delay of the invoicing. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, let's do a roll call vote.
I've got a discussion point, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Emerson, floor is yours.
Just so we can get it into the minutes, can I get an explanation from whoever would like to provide one as to why we are paying for 2018, 2019 fees in 2021?
Wasn't that
Well-
already explained?
Yes.
Anybody want to?
So do we need to go into that again is what I'm trying to get at. If we already,
Mr. Chair, I'd just like just a brief description for anybody watching as to sort of the reasoning behind that. I do plan on voting for this. I think we've received some great services, but the timing of the payments, I think, does need some explanation.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
I'm reluctant to speak about this, but particularly because I'm reluctant to discuss personal medical issues in a public forum. But as was explained several times, including in the cover letter to Ms. Malden when the bill was originally submitted in August of last year, and also in several emails to Ms. Ambrose, the senior accountant, with copies to Ms. Royal, the CFO, and also in an email to Mr. Stearns, which he requested, and my having provided it, he stated to me, he indicated to me that he understood the circumstances and didn't indicate any problem with it. I also would like to be sure that the board is aware of the fact that included in that statement was a statement that was originally submitted in November of 2019 for over $7,500. It's never been paid.
Right. Duly noted. Mr. Emerson, do we have anything else?
What was the last part, Ty?
There was the statement included a balance forward from a statement that was submitted in November of 2019 that was never paid.
Are we? Will this action make that right?
Yes.
It will. Okay. Good.
Yes, it'll pay a statement that's been outstanding since November 2019.
Okay.
I'm in a board meeting.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Also,
Second.
All right, Beverly, let's do a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Director Emerson,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Odell,
yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
All right. Thank you, Beverly. Next, we have the executive director's report and unit updates from the department heads. With that,
Chairman,
yes.
I apologize. We have those two other items that was
Yeah.
pulled from consent,
Uh-huh.
which is the regular minutes from January 26th board meeting, and then the extension of COVID-19 emergency measures
All
for
right.
individual action.
All right.
I make a motion, we accept the board minutes from 1/26/21.
Second.
Beverly, let's take a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a discussion point.
Yes, Mr. Emerson.
Would it be possible for these minutes to reflect the breakdown of the votes as they were cast? On the minutes for January 29th, we do break down how all the votes were cast and which board members voted yay or nay on all the issues. And I would like the same to be applied to the January 26th votes as well.
You requesting a copy of this? Ms.
No,
Emerson?
I have the minutes. I reviewed them. It just simply says that either the vote passed with the number for and against, but it does not include who voted for which yays or nays. And I think it's important that we do have that down in our official minutes.
All right, we record that.
Yes, sir. We can accept that with the amendment, with the amended changes from Director Emerson.
Thank you. Ms. Odell, you had something?
No.
All right. All right. So now we want to move back to the extension of the COVID-19 emergency measures.
Actually, we have to vote on that.
We have a motion.
Minutes.
All right.
And I can do the roll call.
Sorry.
Roll call, Bev.
Yes, sir.
And I'll accept the changes.
Thank you, Dado. Director Emerson,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Lockett.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairman, motion passed.
Thank you, Bev. All right. Are
We
we
have
ready? Yes.
the extension of COVID-19 measures.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We extend the COVID emergency measures.
Second. You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beverly?
Mr. Chair, I've got a discussion point.
All right, Mr. Emerson.
Let me just find this real quick. This is a very long agenda. I should have printed this out.
Yeah.
What page on the agenda are the emergency measures on?
46.
Okay, thank you, Beverly.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I just want to make clear for anybody watching that there are two types of emergency measures that we have been voting on since COVID hit. There are what I would call operational emergency measures, and there's something else called CEO emergency measures. We have not voted on a CEO emergency measure. We didn't vote on one in January. I need to take a look at the December minutes, but I'm not sure if we voted on one in December. But we have continued to vote and move forward these COVID-19 emergency measures, which are more operational. I do think as we move forward, we should definitely take a look into being more clear with what these measures allow staff to do. I think they are important for being able to make changes to scheduling or operations as we see fit. I just want to make sure that I think it would behoove us to make sure that there's no authorization for increased spending or a change to how our procurement rules work with this emergency authorization, and that it is strictly operational in nature and would carry as little financial impact or procurement impact as we can allow. It doesn't really, this agenda item and the ones all before it as well, are not super clear on what they are allowing staff to do. And so if I could just get an explanation, maybe from Ms. Ragland as to why we need these, that would be helpful. I do plan on voting for it. I think they are helpful, but maybe just a bit of an explanation for ourselves and anybody watching this could be great.
So noted.
Mike, we have Dr. Halloran.
Yeah, these are extending the ones that we've been operating under for 12 months. Has there been any changes since last March?
No.
No.
Sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Again, if I may, if I could get an explanation right now as to what these measures actually do, and where they go into, like where they fit in with the whole operation of the organization, that would be cool.
Well, that information is going to be provided in Mr. Cooksey's update. If he will be able to expand on that.
Yes, I mean, I can talk about this now. You know, the whole focus of this was, again, more on the operational side. Initially, when COVID became the dominant conversation in March, when things started, it really allowed the organization to make the changes in reference to the schedules. It allowed us to do more deeper cleaning. I think at that time they needed to add staff as well, you know, just to meet the cleaning demands. So this is clearly just operational. Now we can change some of the language on here to kind of match what you know what you're saying, Director Edminster. But that's the whole focus of this particular measure, is to give us the flexibility to run the operation, to make the changes, especially so much when you're talking about scheduling, you're talking about the customer, because these things definitely impact on our customer engagement side. So that's the purpose of this particular measure.
Thank you.
Another quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And so maybe Mr. Cooksey, what I'm thinking, I'm sort of missing the point on is that the details of this measure, I'm going to be able to find them in the March 2020 board meeting, right? There's going to be more details in that one, and this is simply a continuation of it.
You know what? I will go back and confirm that. I was not here in March when this actually started. I would imagine you would, but I can do the research, on that particular issue and track and run that down. But that would be the idea, correct?
We have any more questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I do think it would probably, since it has been a year, and this might be a really good time for us to look at what are these, how do we want to treat these moving forwards? Are they just right? Are they too much? I think it's a good time to maybe review what we've had in place for a year. I'm not sure if that should be done at a committee level, but I do think that the board, working with the staff and with Ms. Ragland as well, I think that it might be a good time for us to do that, at least before we vote on them next month. I don't want to hold up them right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can add, this is Lenny Cooksey.
Yes, Mr. Cooksey.
If you may recall, in December, if I'm not mistaken, this particular measure was not added in December for the simple fact that what pushed it back on was the surge. Mm-hmm. And if you recall, in December, we had a lot of issues here dealing and struggling with COVID and additional cleaning and changing. So the idea of why this has reappeared is, again, giving us the flexibility during the surge period to make adjustments because we just didn't know what the future, had in store for us. So that's why this has reappeared.
I appreciate it.
Just the historical nature of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right there, Mr.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we're gonna, we had a motion and a second on that. Do we need to take a roll call vote on it?
Yes, sir. I'll start the roll call vote. Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Director Emister,
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes,
Motion passed, sir. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Next, we have the executive director's report and unit updates from the department heads. With that said, I would like to turn the floor to Ms. Ragland and Ms. Ragland as our interim CEO. Ms. Ragland.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and to all of you who might be listening in the public, in the community, who support Chatham Area Transit. As I begin my 4th week now as interim director or interim CEO, I'll just let you know that it's been very, very challenging, but I'm encouraged by the many calls, texts, email messages that I've been receiving from not just the support of the board, but the support of current and former employees, as well as members of the communities. They've helped me to keep my focus on what I was placed in this position to do, and that is to move CAT forward during this time. I know it's worth it. I've been associated with CAT for 34 years, and I know it's worth it to endure whatever I need to do to go through this. With that said, I draw your attention to the interim director's report, which is obviously in a different format this month. But you'll notice that I noticed the first 30 days, I have initiated some contracts. First one was the legal services with Attorney Charles Bowen from the Bowen Law Group. He has been able to, I've asked him to look into the issues of who actually has the right to represent Chatham Area Transit. And for those issues that we can't rely on either, though it's those two records, those two firms that are stated in the record, he can deal with issues that are related to those things that might be conflicts of interest for those firms. So I have done that. I did send yesterday, at the request of Director Edminster, a copy of the contract with Ohio River South and also with Ray Michelle Group. The crisis management group is Ohio River South. And although we did have an ongoing service with Quest Services, who we contacted initially for crisis management, they sent us a proposal and they were mainly dealing with marketing and public relations. So we did reach out to Ohio River South for crisis management because this is territory that we haven't delved in before. For the budget, I contacted Ray Michelle Group because Ms. Jeray Williams has past history with Chatham Area Transit. She has experience in working with the staff. They have a good working relationship. And she has knowledge, very, very good knowledge of the financial standings of Chatham Area Transit. So she agreed, although she terminated services with us in last January, she agreed to come on board because she understands that time is of the essence. We do need a budget, and she's agreed to move forward with us on that. Here are just a few updates. I did ask staff to freeze hiring except in necessary positions, particularly those pertaining to operations, because we understand that the day-to-day operations must go on. So those appointments or hirings will be done and dealt with on an individual basis as needed. For your updates, I listed that Ms. Morrison and I are members of the Mayor's Task Force for Transportation, Housing, and Employment. On the 15th of February, Ms. Dice, who is our Chief Strategy Officer, made a presentation with the Garden City Council that the chairman and I both attended. And also on February 18th, Chairman Ellis of the Chatham County Commission was the speaker for the Tourism Leadership Conference. Staff members did attend that as well. Mr. Vacker is online. He has a legislative update. It is attached in the packet, but I'll let him speak to some specific points at this time.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank all of the board members. I think I sent everybody a pretty extensive legislative report. Thumbnail is House Bill 462, which is the single county transit special purpose local option sales tax legislation, has been introduced. We're getting favorable responses back from members on the Transportation Committee, and I'm anticipating that we will have a hearing on that bill on Thursday in order to move it forward to the rules bill so that we can get it out of the House prior to crossover day. There are two specific pieces of legislation that are pending that I addressed in the report as well. One would be an amendment to the CAT Act to rewrite the structure of the board. That has not been dropped yet. It will be dropped sometime this week, and so will probably appear as late as Monday on the first readers. And the piece of legislation that Carl Gilliard is dropping has been dropped, but it has not shown up on the list yet. That would address CAT services going countywide. There are a couple of versions of that, I believe, that I sent to you. I'm not sure which one he actually is going to introduce. But again, once we see that, then we will understand the nature of that and determine if there's anything that we need to do one way or the other. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody would have.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, is Gilliard's bill basically to eliminate the opt-out policy?
Yes, it basically is to eliminate the opt-out policy. There are two different versions. One would require or would set up a single majority countywide referendum for the voters to determine if CAT services should be, in fact, countywide. The second piece of legislation is somewhat a different version that, again, states that the CAT district is countywide, but gives municipalities the capability to enter into intergovernmental agreements with the county and CAT in terms of determining how that SSD would fit within their own jurisdiction and the area and level of services that would be desired, if any at all. I'm not sure that that piece of legislation is much different from the Chatham Area Transit Authority Act that exists now, which contains the opt-out provision, but does contain opt-in language that currently allows a local jurisdiction by a simple majority resolution to petition CAT and the county for expansion of the SSD into all of that jurisdiction or certain areas of that jurisdiction. And that basically is the dialogue that we are involved in now with Garden City in determining how one would implement the potential expansion of services beyond the current Garden City SSD around Chatham City, the old traffic circle area, and portions of Highway 21.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Robinson.
In your report, the restructure of the CAT Act, is that correct?
Yes.
And who's spearheading that, or who's leading that charge?
Representative Derek Mallow has been working on this basically since the first days of the session, and finally has surfaced a bill that I just received, and I believe, in fact, I know it has been sent to the Chatham County Commission. It has been sent to the mayor and alderman. It has been sent to Garden City, and I forwarded a copy of this to the CAT board last night. That was the first time I was able to get my hands on an actual copy of what the precise language of the CAT board restructuring language is.
And also in your report, you mentioned having a conversation with Mayor Johnson, and you said he had no desire to increase the number from the city on the CAT board.
That is correct.
And part of the proposal is to add another person. So how do you think that's does he have any say so in that? Or if it's passed legislatively, the city will have to adhere to it?
Well, you know, the process moving any piece of local legislation, and this is local legislation,
right,
is that absent having a delegation rule, which basically is an agreement on how many signatures would need to pass something forward, everybody in the delegation would have to sign this. The CAT board is a creature of the General Assembly and the legislative delegation. And so truly the discussions on this should logically be between the Chatham County Commission, the city of Savannah, and Garden City, because that directly affects their level of input on who is going to be sitting on the board. And so that's kind of where this stands with the process. You're sitting around the virtual table right now with basically the county having 6 appointments, the city having 2 appointments, and Garden City having 1 appointment. The structure that is contained in the piece of legislation would provide that the county commission would provide 2 county commissioners to serve on the board. The city of Savannah would provide 2 aldermen to serve on the board. The county commission would appoint an ADA citizen, obviously from the county, to sit on the board. The legislative delegation would provide names as nominations for the Chatham County Commission to select 2 individuals to serve on the board. They would do the same to the city of Savannah to name 1 citizen to serve on the board, and Garden City would name 1 elected official from Garden City. That is the structure as proposed at this moment. And obviously, when this is introduced, then the dialogue will begin in earnest on either moving it forward, either dropping it, massaging the numbers, no telling how or where this will go. And it is my recommendation that we do one of 2 things. One is to oppose restructuring the board, which I have made very clear to Representative Mallow, without the board taking a position that the board is not going to be in favor of restructuring itself. The other option would be just to take a position of neutrality in that, since the board is not a self-appointing, self-perpetuating board, that this most logically impacts the county, the city, and Garden City. And it is something for them to deal with. And so that's an evaluation of where we are right now. Again, as it stands, it would require the signature of all of the members of the delegation, and I'm not sure that they are in that position at this point in time.
Mike, that wouldn't affect crossover day, would it?
No, local legislation is not affected by crossover day, but functionally it takes 5 days to move a piece of local legislation through the process. And so basically this would have to be done by, let's say, the 33rd or the 35th day in the session, which would be very late in March.
We have all members of our local delegation present.
No, we do not have Representative Mickey Stevens present. But as I recall, he did remotely or signed a piece of legislation last session. And so he is still a member. He is excused, but he does or should, I'm not going to speak for him, he should have the capability to sign the legislation. And as the delegation rule stands, his signature would be required.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thanks, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to have fun up here.
Thank you, Mike. We have a report as well in your package from Squire, Patton, and Boggs. Mr. Kingston and I are trying to schedule sometime this week to sit down and talk and look at some things that might affect CAT in the very near future. I'll move on to my upcoming virtual APTA conferences. If you'll note that I've specifically directed this toward the directors. Chatham Area Transit has several layers of management. And I know that Dr. Robinson has on several occasions stressed the need to cross-train. So we have a membership with APTA, which is the American Public Transit Association. We are given a discount for using or taking advantage of the conferences and meetings that they offer. So I think this is a great opportunity for directors who fall immediately under the executive leadership team to be exposed to other professionals, other transit professionals, to network with them. That's the best way to learn the best practices in this industry, and also to promote professional development. They seem to get kind of left out of the curve, if you will. So I'm encouraging them to take advantage of this opportunity. And you'll note in the report that I've noticed some overall goals and projects for the next 30, 60, 90 days, very short term, if you will. There's so much to do, and there are so many things that we need to do to get to these points, but I'll entertain any questions at this point. Dr.
Yeah, what's happening with the shuttle?
With the DOT shuttle?
The DOT shuttle.
I know Bryn has been in discussion. She might want to mention that later on in her presentation, but she has been in discussion with the city. They have set some tentative dates. We're looking at staffing in according with rescheduling or reinstituting the DOT shuttle. So Bryn might want to speak to that, but she and Wendy Arden, who is the Director of Transportation, and also Lenny and I have been discussing that, as well as the need for staffing to start it again. But I think Bryn might want to address that later on in her presentation.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where, we must have drivers assigned to the shuttle. What are they doing at this point?
Well, actually, in our COVID environment, we are having some issues with staffing. We've had a lot of COVID-related absentees, also already scheduled absences, vacations, things like that. People are going to get sick outside of the COVID pandemic. So we have been having some shortages. So it's kind of worked to our benefit this time. But in the very near future, we may have some issues with shortages as these operators are coming back into the workplace on a regular basis. Some of them have been out on workers' comp. Some of them have been out on long-term sick leave, and they're coming back into the organization. So we're looking at that. Lenny and I have been discussing that there might be a possibility to or a need to hire even more operators. Dr. Robinson?
I just want to go back a little bit in your report. Early on, you talked about the freeze on hiring, and if need be, we'd hire more people for operation, and if need be. And my question is, are we talking about new hires or maybe people leaving and replacing people? And we probably don't have the answer yet, but the financial impact that will have on our overall budget, you know, would be something that I think we need to look at as well.
Yes, ma'am. In some cases, we have had some people to resign very recently. So there will be some replacements, but some of these will be new hires as well. And as you said, as we delve into the budget and the budget process, we will be able to better determine what those needs are, how it's going to affect the bottom line as well.
One last thing on the budget, on the calendar for the budget, have we looked at whether it impacted our, you know, the board had a calendar already set up for the year, for the fiscal year. Did that in any way impact that calendar at all? Because on my calendar, there was a conflict in one of them, but I could have missed something.
I don't know, Dr. Robertson, but I don't know at this point, but I will compare them and I will get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Director Edminster?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Ragland. I've got sort of 2 points of clarity. In the report, it says that you've taken HR, finance, and procurement, and those are now reporting directly to you, interim CEO. If you can just kind of provide some clarity as to why you felt that that was necessary to make those changes. And additionally, does that put us at any risk or not being able to comply with FTA for those procurements and expenses?
I took that step, Director Edminster, because initially there was request for information, and there appeared, and it appeared to be some hesitancy to provide information to me. So I needed some way to put to get a pulse of the organization, if you will. So that's why that was done. So I could go directly to the source, get the information I need to determine certain specifics about the organization, because I have not.
You're on mute.
I don't know why it muted me, but anyway, because being in this position, of course, is brand new to me. And there were certain things that I was unaware of, things, operations, policies, all of that. And I needed to be able to access that information.
And you don't believe that this that this may put the organization at risk?
No, sir, I don't. As far as procurement, there are checks and balances in place. I can't do anything unless it comes from the level below me. I can't just arbitrarily decide to do something and not go through the procurement process and be questioned about it. No, sir.
Great. That is a great segue to my other questions, specifically on the procurement of Ohio River South.
Mm-hmm.
How come this didn't? Why did this not come before the board? The math that I did is that it's $9,000 a month. It's a minimum 6-month contract. That's about $54,000 at a minimum for that, and that would be that's definitely a far more complex purchase or a procurement than something between $9,000, $10,000, or even under $20,000. So how did that happen without it coming before the board?
Well, like I said earlier, initially we reached out to Quest. They were not able to provide the services, and so we contracted with Ohio River. We agreed to formulate a contract for up to a 6-month period, but we have an understanding that if not necessary, we will not use it. We don't know how often we might need to use it, but we will not use it if not necessary.
On that, just quick point, the contract says it's continues not less than 6 months.
Yes, sir.
Which to me reads as a minimum of 6 months. So really, we're in this for 6 months.
I understand your concern, and we know that if it exceeds the authority of the CEO, then it would have to come before the board at that point.
I mean, it looks very clearly that it will. This is a $54,000 expense.
Well, we don't know that, but we are prepared to bring it before the board for approval if necessary.
And when or if that happens, why was that not done before? Why are we going to be approving something that we've already committed to? How did that happen?
It happened because we needed crisis management. As stated before, Quest is a public relations and marketing firm. Our in-house staff, we didn't feel was equipped to handle this. And this was an emergency procurement, which is what was done for emergency purposes. It's an emergency procurement. It's not a standard contract. Although we did provide 2 quotes to successfully go through the procurement process, which wasn't necessary, but we did provide that.
So just for clarity, this was made as an emergency procurement.
Mm-hmm.
The cost is going to be close to $54,000. The procurement was not brought before the board before being signed. And we got into the contract because none of the internal services or the services we had on hand were able to do this work.
That's basically correct, sir.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Dale.
Okay, I think it's important to note that Ms. Ragland has said no less than 3 times that if the services are not required, that they won't be used. She has a $20,000 limit as CEO. So if she enters into an agreement that is under $20,000, she can do that. When it starts to exceed her budget, her limit, then she can bring it before the board. So she's done nothing wrong. I think we need to be clear that she's done nothing wrong.
May I also add that because this is an emergency procurement for critical communication, we have insurance that will cover the expense. Currently, when I spoke with Ohio River, the contract is actually for $9,000. If it exceeds $20,000, then we'll come to the board. But these monies for these invoices for critical communication will come through our insurance provider, according to Hilda Mercedes, who's our compliance officer. So that was another reason that we thought we could go up to $50,000 through this insurance provider. Yes, sir.
I totally agree, Director Odell. If I made that, I think Ms. Ragland has done nothing wrong and has followed procurement policy on this through emergency authorization. If this is declared as an emergency authorization, 2 things I'd like to see are the purchase order, procurement documents related to it. And I think it's interesting to note that this is in exactly the same type of procurement that Ms. Picara used for procuring Jackson Lewis at the beginning. And this is a very similar type of procurement between the 2. So if I'd like to make that point, because I think that's kind of interesting, that we had one CEO that was able to do that. We've got another CEO where that was not made possible to her. And if you could provide a little bit more information on what are these guys or folks going to be doing?
I would like.
Excuse before you. This is not the same as Jackson Lewis.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Not the same as Jackson Lewis.
No.
Jackson Lewis was not an emergency procurement. We had Bowen Falligan on point. You didn't need to go find another law firm that you paid $40,000 over your $20,000 limit. It's not the same. Now, if we had not had Bowen Falligan as our attorneys, you could call that an emergency. But how do you call, what exactly was Bowen Falligan? Why were they not relevant?
That's right.
So Don't try to do that. Don't try to make it seem as though it's apples and apples. It's not. Bow and Falligan was on point. They were on services. They were there to provide a service. She went outside of that to get Jackson Lewis well beyond her $20,000 limit. So it's not the same. You shaking your head no. Are you trying to say that that Jackson Lewis doesn't have a $60,000 bill right now? That CAT is on the hook for?
If I might add, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. Ragland.
I would like to also add, Mr. Edminster has requested the PO, and I'd be glad to provide that. But when the purchase order was submitted through REC, it was only for $20,000. That was the limit.
Interesting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Truth. Do we have any more questions? All right, Ms. Ragland.
Okay, can we go into our service updates? Will we begin with Mr. Cooksey? Yeah, yes.
Is the page 4 procurement and contracts, is that a part of your report or someone else's?
Page 4.
Yeah, I've got page 4, 5, and 6 that talks about procurement and contracts.
That would be David Stearns, administrator.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dumas. I'll save it for then.
Well,
Mr. Cooksey?
Yes. Good morning again, Mr. Chair, Board of Directors, Ms. Ragland. Get our presentation set up here. You can go to the next slide. I promise you I won't be in front of you too long. Our fixed route on-time performance seems to kind of be leveling off. Our goal is 70%. So what we have done, I started working with planning on looking at each individual route by day, so we can really kind of drill down to, what are our lower performing routes? What are we doing well? As we try to, basically we're in the home stretch in reference to this goal. So we're continually working on that, and in the next couple of committee meetings, I'll be talking more about some different things or different ideas as we move forward in that area. Next slide. Ridership, 3-month slide, 3 months in a row, we've managed to slide on this particular one. I think this is also a great opportunity. I mean, we knew, when we started charging fare that we're going to have some challenges. And we've also experienced in the surge, all of those things combined. But it's also a great opportunity for us now to work on our service. How are we treating our clients? How are we treating our customers as we continue to fine tune this? And hopefully we'll manage to see a spike or a reversal on this as things change throughout the country. But again, we are in a 3-month slide, and hopefully that will end here soon. Next slide. As far as our paratransit, the numbers remain strong. Our goal is 90%. So it's a good chance we're going to meet that goal. So again, this is a good number. It's a strong number. We may even look in the future of bumping that 90% up. I think we're in the right direction there. So again, this continues to be a strong number. Great team, continuing to get the job done in the area as far as schedule adherence. Next slide. Our top 5, again, strong numbers. As you see, Nicole Lloyd, almost 100%. So that's impressive. And again, majority of our operators are over 90%. So we're going to keep pushing that number up. And the goal one day, hopefully we'll have 100% on here. But these are our top 5. And again, we're excited that they continue to put in all the team, but they continue to strive for excellence. And so great job. Kudos to that team. Next slide. Ridership, slight decline. I mean, the numbers are holding. Not as steep as fixed route, so you can anticipate, the bounce back to be quicker. These are still decent numbers. We're going to have a set of clients that have to go to different doctor's appointments, dialysis, things of those nature. So we shouldn't see like April of last year, those numbers where we're dipping down into 4,000 trips. But we managed to stay consistent here. Again, I do expect this to bounce back much quicker than fixed route. Again, the team is doing a great job continuing to take care of our clients in this end. Next slide. I brought this slide up. I don't know if you recall, back in December, we started talking about the Chatham Mobility Reservation Request Form, which was really our attempt at giving the client another option for scheduling appointments. And as you noticed in December, kind of getting this thing off the ground, really not much activity. So I was a little worried. That's, people aren't using this. I know it's complicated. I know Director Edminster had mentioned some things, some challenges that he found with it, but we tried to clean it up a bit. So I am reporting that, that we are a huge jump. So we're up to 90 clients using this service, using this form. It's actually probably the fastest growing service that we've been able to provide. So I'm very anxious to see what the numbers look like. What we found as well is that a lot of family members or caregivers are the ones actually filling out these forms. So this is a great thing. Again, it's all about giving people freedom, especially in those off hours where they may not be able to call in. And so, if you can give you a little more freedom, then we should be very excited about that. And this is showing we're headed clearly in the right direction.
Mr. Cooksey, that's incredible.
Yes, no worries. I'm very excited about that. Not heading in the right direction is our ferry ridership. Huge decline. There really isn't much happening on the convention side as far as the convention center. Now, we did have an event this past month, the volleyball tournament that may help some, but we got to just continue to watch these numbers. This was a lot lower than I was anticipating. Of course, we had some things going on in December that helped the numbers, but January hopefully is not a true measure and more of an anomaly. So we'll continue to watch the ferry ridership. I did have an opportunity to meet with Mr. Jeff Hewitt, and he gave me a list of events that start from June to December, and they got a lot of heavy hitter events coming into town. So I'm excited about that and the possibility of additional ridership, especially if those things pan out. So we're going to continue, kind of keep our foot on the gas there and be prepared for the influx starting this summer as far as their prediction. Next slide. Call center numbers finished at 11,000, rounded up to 12. Still good numbers as far as incoming calls. So we'll continue to see those numbers hover anywhere between 11 to 14, 15,000 phone calls. And they're being handled very well, by the way. I think the organization should be very proud of what this team is doing, because you don't see them, you don't hear about them, but they're putting up astronomical numbers. And if you can go to the next slide, so our call center customer service wait time when you call in for the month of January was 38 seconds. Only once had we come close to that, and that was back in September. So that's awfully fast. I mean, I'm just clapping. I'm excited to see this number. I'm just going to keep yelling this number to the top of the world, because this just doesn't happen that quickly. And the key is you got people that are committed, they're dedicated, but we're also staffed well. And when we moved to the cloud back in August and started to kind of fine tune the different software and how we can monitor calls, this is working very well for the organization. So kudos to that team, and actually kudos to the whole organization. Next slide. So I wanted to kind of show you what's coming down the pike. One thing, we had this mask mandate, and the real challenge of that is trying to deal with, hostile situations, trying to de-escalate the situation with people who don't want to wear masks. And that, of course, that is the mandate. This is a dispenser that we found. Now, these have been out, but they weren't very good up until now. We should have some pilot or demo ones coming in, but what it'll allow us to do is mount these on each bus, on the ferry, in all of our buildings. So now it's self-serve. We have the ability to constantly stock these masks. I believe we got about 40,000 on hand, and with the ability to order many more. This will help de-escalate any situation. It's providing, it's helping keep riders safe, it's keeping the operators safe. So, and you can actually lock them. And I think that was the issue before, is you couldn't lock them. So people would actually put their hands inside a contained area grabbing the mask. But here, it's just one and done. So I wanted you to see what we're constantly looking for, new technology, looking for new things to make the job better. So I just wanted to show you what's coming down the pipe. Next slide. So you've probably heard about this, or if you haven't, this is pretty exciting. I think CAT may have attempted this some time ago, and that's our mobile pay option. That's giving the client another option to pay. It makes things safer. It should speed up the system as well. And so what I have here is, I'm going to take about 2 minutes of your time. So everybody turn up your volume. And this is a driver training video. Again, it's about 2 minutes. So you can actually see what we will be rolling out next month. We have trained so far 90% of our frontline staff on this. And it's pretty exciting stuff. So if you can go ahead and start the video, that would be great.
Welcome to the Token Transit driver training video. In this short video, we'll go over 3 things. 1, how to recognize and validate tickets. 2, how customers purchase passes. And lastly, let you try Token Transit on your own phone. First, validating tickets. Customers board the bus and show their phone to the bus driver like this. Here's what the ticket looks like. Notice the pulsing donut, the time of day, and the denotation of what type of ticket the customer purchased. We'll hand out a driver cheat sheet for you to see all this in slow motion. Notice the agency, the color and motion, and the ticket and time of day information. Next, here's how customers purchase the passes. They open the Token Transit app on their phone, they hit Buy Passes, they select their rider type and pass type, and then hit Confirm Choice and purchase directly from within the Token Transit app. After purchasing, they can tap to use that pass whenever they're ready. Then confirm the activation, and then up pops the visual ticket on their phone that they show you as the operator when they're boarding. And then here we're back to the visual ticket that the customer will show you when boarding the bus. The customer can close out the ticket and view how much time they have left at any time. They can pull it up, buy another pass, also pull up the ticket to show you again if they need to. If you want to try Token Transit on your own phone, you can just download the Token Transit app on the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. Sign in with your phone number, and you'll be all set to purchase passes. Just remember, your agency isn't live yet, so you likely will not show up in the app. To review, we went over validating tickets and how to recognize them, showed you how customers purchase passes, and also gave you a chance to try Token Transit on your own phone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly at info@tokentransit.com.
So that's what's next. I mean, one of the most dangerous things in transportation that I found in my history is silos. People working in silos, doing your own thing. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what the other person's saying or doing. This particular project is brought together our planning department, marketing, safety, our union brothers and sisters, and operations. This is a collective effort. So I'm if not for anything, that in itself is a huge win that we can all work across with each other. So again, I just wanted to kind of give you a little lay of the land as far as the mobile pay. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's a press conference that'll be held on March 8th, which is an official launch. at ITC. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to ask me, but I'm open for questions.
Mr. Chair, I have some questions.
I have one. I'm sorry.
Mr. Emerson first.
Thank you, Lenny. Again, a fantastic report and update. Can you walk us through, and I know that we would discuss this at the beginning of the RFP for these mobile ticketing, but how will it register? Will we be able to see how many people paid with token transit versus how many people paid in another way? And then also, are we doing any training around, like if I tried to evade the system and show you an image, are we talking about like sort of non-compliance from riders with using the system? How do we securely, make that happen? And then finally, very exciting, and congratulations on making it this far.
Sure. It's definitely 100% of a team effort. To answer that second question, if you looked at the app, what happens is there's the pulsating circle that pulsates. So what happens is the driver has to see that pulsating symbol in order to know it's active. So you can't just snap a picture of it and say, oh, look at my phone, I've paid. So that's a great question, because I had a chance. This is my second system being rolled out with, and the original system I was involved with, you could technically beat the system. This one actually, shores up on that end, because it has to be pulsating in order for it to be accepted. So that's a great thing. Now we will be able to tell what route that it was used on. Of course, there'll be data and reports we can pull to know how many people are purchasing it and so forth. But we'll also know where they're purchasing it, which is high frequency or high frequency routes where they're purchasing this stuff. So we'll be able to pull all of that different data. And also remember, this is also available for paratransit as well. So this is across the board. And again, this is everyone. This is the whole organization getting involved and behind this project to push it out. So,
Mr. Cooksey, I've got one more question.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Let's say that we wanted to do a deal with Savannah State University where all college students would be available to ride all of our buses at any time for free. Would we be able to push passes to them through like an email or something like that? Will this possibly be able to help us do group ticket purchases?
Yeah, you know what? Without doing a little more research, I wouldn't see why it would not with today's technology where you can do that. But I will circle back and do a little more research to kind of confirm that answer. But again, logically, you would believe that we would be able to do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Dr. Roberts.
This is like a non-compliance question, Mr. Cooksey. I love the mask dispensers that you have, that you're looking at. But
Yes.
my question is, I've been to a couple of public service events where masks were mandated, and in order to ensure that it happened, there was security there.
Right.
So if anybody violated, there was someone other than the employee that could pull them out of line. So if you have a non-compliant rider doing our training, how have we been trained, our driver been trained to handle that?
Yeah, you know what, that is one of the agencies our size who do not have a transit police department. That has been a major issue across the country. For us, what you would do if you have a rider who does not comply, that particular driver, if you're in a safe location, you open both of your doors, because what you want to do is allow that person to be able to exit the bus, right? You also call dispatch. You call the dispatch center. You let them know your situation for them to dispatch a supervisor out. Depending on the severity of the situation, at that point, they'll notify the local police department. So there are those particular steps that you take. Now, I have not received many complaints, actually very few, of people not complying. Our thing, and that's the whole purpose of the barriers that were purchased. It's not just for COVID. That's not the intent of them originally. It had nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. It had to do with with dealing with unruly customers. It's a safety feature. So that in itself it just happens to be, they're installed now to deal, many people feel they were just COVID, but it also helps with this type of situation where you may have a disabled client or customer not complying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
I just had one, and it generally concerns the rapid drop in ridership over the last 4 months. I mean, how long are we going to be able to work at full capacity if the ridership keeps dropping this badly, especially with the ferry service and our fixed route?
I mean, we've got to, you know, it's to the point, especially the alarming number on the ferry, you know, where at some point we need to get with the staff and really kind of draw a line in the sand on that, on really what's acceptable. I do know March is normally a high month anyway, and we may see us bounce back in March.
Well, that's St. Patrick's Day, a lot of that.
Yeah.
And there will be no St. Patrick's Day.
That's correct. But even industry-wide, from what I've seen, March and October are really your months where you tend to see pretty substantial numbers. But you know, you are correct. I mean, at some point we'll need to draw a line in the sand on what's acceptable and what steps, you know, we need to take next.
Yeah, especially when the convention center is saying they don't have anything big planned until June.
Yeah, that's correct.
And they're the major reason we have ferry service. So
yes,
we have to start definitely drawing lines in the sand on these things, because we can't afford to budget everybody else's shortages for much longer. We're taking a beating on financial.
I agree.
To support all these other organizations that have canceled service on us.
Also, may I mention something? We've talked in the past about exploring the option of the first mile, last mile with other transit systems that are using that. And if we need to start thinking a little differently, rather than running these large buses throughout the county, and we can do something a little more creative to get people where they need to be, then I think now is the time to be doing this.
I agree. Now is the time. I know Bryn Dice's team, she has a full team in play now, so we do need to do a deep dive. And, you know, because there are other options and we do need to exercise them. You can just see just from the ridership and what's happening, the trend. Even if these were good times, you still need to offer those different options, you know, different mobility buses out on the outlying areas that feed into your main line, or different services that can, you know, dollar ride type services. You know, they're expensive, but, you know, there are options that we do need to explore, and I don't disagree with you there. I think we're upon that time now where we need to probably scratch something out and see what it looks like.
I agree. It seems to me that we've got to do something when you break it down for the amount of money per person per mile. These numbers are starting to get scary.
I understand.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Cooksey? Okay, if not, then we can move into our administrative services update with David Stearns.
Thank you. Just a minute, I'll share my screen here. Wow. So just highlighting a few things. I won't keep you very long, but compliance is continuing to implement the Dock Tracks program. So this program, I've talked about it. It's kind of exciting for me, at least. It coordinates all policies, all procedures into one platform, and essentially will act as a intranet that all employees will be able to access easily, really anytime they want. It also has the feature of being able to require attestations that you received a policy and that you received a document or whatever you want. So that's really helpful in the compliance world to be able to show not only that you have a policy, but that you can prove that somebody received it because they acknowledged receipt. So at this point, we've uploaded our policies into the program and we've put our users into the program. So we're getting really close to being able to launch it out to everyone. So just kind of give you a update on that. So the HR department, we completed a number of trainings for Munis. As the board's kind of aware, our understanding and ability to use Munis as an HRIS, Human Resource Information System, was somewhat limited, but we're able to start getting some training underway. We've gotten several kind of basic trainings done, and we have more coming up in the next month or so. So we're kind of excited to get that underway. Risk management, it's about time to start insurance time. So we've met with Seacrest partners to kind of go over CAT's current needs, talk about potential pitfalls, potential deficiencies. So Hilda Mercedes, the risk manager, compliance and risk manager, kind of really is doing a good job spearheading the insurance kind of areas for CAT. And so we're looking at getting insurance. We're trying to, it's somewhat of a moving target to try to guess what insurance is going to cost for 2022, but because we're entering the budget cycle, we're kind of underway in that regard. And that's pretty much it. Brief update for you today. I'll take any questions if there are any. No. Okay.
I think Dr. Robertson stated earlier that she had a question. Okay, there she is.
I was trying to unmute myself. I was struggling.
Okay.
David, I was looking at the procurement contracts on page 4, 5, and 6 that I have in front of me. And I just need some clarity. On page 4, we talk about procurement status.
Yes.
And it says bus order expected on 3/2020. So have the buses not arrived, or should that date be changed, or?
They haven't arrived, and Lenny maybe could speak more definitely, but I think they're still scheduled to come in March of 2020. Lenny, is that correct?
Yeah, we're receiving our first bus in March.
But that should be 2021 then.
Oh yeah, you're right, Dr. Robinson. That's a typo. Sorry.
Okay.
I forget what year we're in.
Okay, that concerned me a little bit. And then the second item says awaiting contract award. So the RFP was levied in April of 2019, and we've not made a decision on that one yet.
Oh, that's the consortium. That's not, we're part of it. So a consortium is when a bunch of agencies get together to basically kind of increase your buying power. So yeah, they haven't, last I knew, they hadn't awarded the contract as of the full contract as of yet. And so I can reach back out. It's kind of being handled by, I think Gwinnett County is spearheading that. We're kind of part of it, but Gwinnett is kind of spearheading the actual procurement. So last information I had, they hadn't awarded the contract as of yet.
But when that contract is awarded, will we have to do anything financially to be a part of it?
No, we're already a part of it. And what it does, it gives us the ability to buy buses off this contract. So it basically makes buses available to us, all types of buses, including electric, diesel, any kind. They have just various different buses that are available to the consortium members. And so when we look to replace, say, our fleet through our TAM plan, our diesel buses or whatever, we can just go to that already done, procured contract to then just buy off that contract whenever we're ready.
Okay, and then on the general counsel recommendation to board of directors on 10/27/2020, is that right?
Yeah.
So what does that tell me? Is it's effective or?
No, that just is in kind of limbo. As of January, it was just kind of in limbo. So I'm not quite sure of the current status of that. But if it were, if it were awarded, it would say, awarded or proposals being evaluated. So that's just mean it went to the board in October, and then it's just kind of been in limbo. And keep in mind, this is the January update, so it brings you through January.
Yeah. So all of these have already been budgeted in some form or another. Is that correct?
Yeah, because these solicitations you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them are capital projects, so like electric bus, bus consortium. Not legislative advocacy is kind of part of normal budget. General counsel is usually part of your normal fiscal budget process. Susie King Taylor's capital, project management, that's just kind of hanging out, but that would be potentially capital, depending upon how you bill it back to the projects they're working on. Interior design is capital and IT is budgeted. So it's kind of a mix.
Yeah. Okay, now quickly, and then on page 5, when I look at the contracts that are going to expire this year.
Dr. Robinson, did I lose you? Hello?
I'm here. Where are you? You hear me?
It must be on my end. No, I heard page 5.
Okay, on page 5, there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contracts that will expire in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And as we move forward for budget year 2022, will these items should be a part of that, because 2 of them will expire at the very end of this fiscal year. And
yeah, and typically the person responsible for the department, they'll see contracts that are kind of current in the budget template process. And so, the person in charge of the department would take a look at the contract, see if it's something that needs to be renewed or if it's something that can be allowed to lapse. And then, you kind of look at the contract and say, well, I think we can renew it for about that, maybe plus a certain percentage. It's always kind of somewhat of a guess game as far as what you're actually going to get. But if it's a contract that the department leader would consider, needed going forward, then they would take the previous contract and say, okay, well, we're going to have to renew this. So we probably want to account for that in the budget and add in a little bit of extra because it's probably going to be more money than last time.
And my only reason for pointing this out is we're all concerned about what the budget's going to look like in 2022. So as these things expire, the cost is, may go up. So we need to think about that. And I heard you say that this takes us to January of 2021.
Yes.
So have there been any additional contracts that's not on here that will show up maybe in next month's report?
I would imagine procurement and contracts don't fall under me now. I know Ms. Ragland mentioned a couple of contracts, so that's kind of handled in that department. So I would imagine so.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Stearns? If not, we can move into our system development update with Bren. Hi, Bren.
Hi, Mr. Ragland. Good morning, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Chair,
sorry.
and members of the board.
I got the regular.
Just a minute, I'm sorry. Ms.
I'm
Odell?
sorry. Chairman Cody, I think we have some members that have to leave at noon. Perhaps we could do our executive session and then catch up with the rest of it for those that have to go, so that we can have everybody a part of the executive session.
Yes, I believe we can come back to this. So we need to move. I want to make a motion to move on to executive session. It's going to be related to personnel litigation. I wanted to get a motion in a second so we can move right into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion. I got a point of discussion. I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, Dr. Robinson.
The remaining items on the executive director's report, are we doing this because we think they'll be lengthy, or why are we omitting those and not just finishing out? That's my question.
We got members got to leave. So we wanted everybody to make the executive session to get any questions that we need to ask in executive session out the way.
And I don't want to put weight on one over the other, but there could be questions that the person want to ask about the financial update that has to leave as well. I'm just asking. If we can just, if they're not going to be lengthy, can we just, because we're at 11:34. So yeah, I guess, well, I just wanted to know, are we weighing one more heavy than the other?
We got a motion in a second. We can take a vote on it. Let's see if anybody got a problem with it. Beverly?
Yes, sir. Director Emister?
Just to be clear, we're voting to go into executive session?
Yes.
And to
Yes.
authorize the chairman to execute an
Yes.
affidavit? Okay. Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
Director Leggett?
Yes.
Director Odell?
Yes.
Director Lockett?
Yes.
Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Stone?
Yes.
Director Robinson?
No.
Okay, and Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Motion passed to enter into a closed session.
Thank you.
I'll start the breakout rooms.
We live?
Yes, Chairman, we're live.
All right, thank you. I want to note that there were no votes taken in executive session today. And I want to get a motion call for a roll call.
Okay,
Are we back in session and you ready for a motion?
Yes, you're looking for a motion.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to, and I'm guessing how this needs to.
Yeah, we got to make a motion to come out of executive session first, right? In a roll.
Okay, then I
We
make
don't
the
have to
motion.
say
that we
roll.
have-
The chairman can convene the public session after the close of the executive session. You don't need a motion for that.
All right. All right. So Ms. Stone.
Okay, and I'm gonna see if I can word this correctly. Mr. Butler, if I need, if the wording needs to be tweaked, please help me out. But my motion is to uphold or reinstate the termination of Bakar Malden.
I think the term that you're looking for is reaffirm.
Reaffirm, okay.
I'll second that.
Beverly?
okay, yes, sir. Roll call vote. Director Emister,
No.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
No.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Absolutely not.
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Chairman Cody, motion passed.
Thank you. All right. We are going to Ms. Ragland. We're gonna have to go back to. We just
Sir.
finished up with Mr. Stern, so we were just about to get ready for Ms. Bryn Dice.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Let me just pull up my screen. 1 second. As a reminder, my division includes long-term and transit planning, route scheduling, innovation, and business development. Today, I just want to review one of the larger projects that on which my team has been working, and then I'll touch on some of the questions that Dr. O'Halloran had earlier in the meeting. As you know, we were invited by Garden City's City Council to work with city staff on a potential expansion of the transit district. And I presented to the council at their work session on February 15th, which was last Monday. The highlights from this presentation are as such. I talked about CAT's vision for Garden City, which includes rethinking transit services for the overall community with a focus on underserved and unserved communities, connecting communities, and workforce development and connection from home to work to home. You can see here in the red on this map on your screen that the red highlights the current parcels that are in the transit district in Garden City. You can also see the colored lines or the routes that we currently take. And so there are a couple there that go through Garden City or go directly around Garden City, which are the 3 West Chatham, the 3B Augusta Ave Hudson, the 17 Silk Hope, and the 25 West Lake. And in our conversations with Garden City staff, we realized that there's a lot happening in their community, still some in construction and some in the design and planning phases. So we developed a potential phased approach to expanding the transit district. As you can see here on the map, phase 1A would be about connecting existing service on the Route 21 corridor. This has been a major priority in comments that we've received from the public. So that's where we wanted to plan for phase 1A. This service would support the plans of relocation of the school and would implement temporary stops during the transition period. So basically, there could be several stops along the corridor, one of them being at Smith Ave, and one of them at the current school location, and then later at future school locations. And this is a really straightforward extension of our current service, as the 3 West Chatham already travels this route, but does not stop in the highlighted section because they're not in the transit district. With the addition of these parcels in the transit district, we could maximize efficiency while assisting students and employees in their daily commute. For the second part of phase 1, we proposed including these parcels at the very north end of the city on both sides of Dean Forest Road. These are primarily industrial parcels. Those parcels in that light purple are industrial, and those parcels in the yellow are commercial. So you can see there's commercial along the Dean Forest corridor, but industrial behind it in those industrial parks. And this is another area where we currently travel along with the Route 3 West Chatham bus. We could add additional stops here along Dean Forest Road with a loop through both of these northern and southern sections and provide additional and more efficient service for businesses and employees here. And then on to phase 2. For the second part, we imagined including additional parcels along the west side of the city. These highlighted areas, these 3 highlighted areas, they're on Dean Forest Road, along Louisville Road, and then in that mixed use development that's there where City Hall is located on the more southern end of the city. We know this area has much potential around the corner, and we want to support the current and future businesses in these corridors with access to transit service. So if the city were to choose to include these parcels in the transit district, we did a rough calculation of the commercial and industrial parcels that we've suggested be included in phase 1A and B. Again, this is just phase 1, and we're close to about $70,000 that could be raised if those parcels were included in the transit district. I also want to emphasize here that I specifically said commercial and industrial. There are no additional residential parcels that have been proposed to be included, only parcels along these corridors that are commercial, industrial, and institutional. And those institutional parcels are, for example, the school along Route 21. We included that parcel even though we know that they won't be a generator of taxes, but they're certainly a generator of use. So in conclusion, these were the main points of the presentation I gave at last week's City Council meeting to Garden City. The board had some questions for Kat as well as for their attorney as to the history and process of the transit district. And we will submit our answers to Mr. Feldner, the city manager, with whom we've been working, and await their direction for next steps. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention so that you could get a better feel for exactly what we presented to Garden City. It's exciting to see so much development happening there, and not only the board, but also customers really reaching out to us and saying we need transit service in more than what's already there. So that's exciting. Now, my presentation was going to end there, but I don't want to end. I want to touch on Dr. O'Halloran's questions about the DOT shuttle. If you refer to the last page in your packet under System Development Unit, page 6 of that section, we have been discussing with the City of Savannah the options for restarting the DOT shuttle. As you know, it was temporarily suspended in 2020, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that y'all don't have to look at that screen anymore. The DOT shuttle was suspended in 2020 due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, and we've been working with city staff to determine when it might be reinstated. On January 7th, we met with some city staff and the Department of Public Health about the impact of the pandemic on public transit and the prospects of bringing the DOT shuttle back into service. And while they are prepared, excuse me, to bring the DOT shuttle back into service, they have not yet chosen a date. So we've been talking to them about how much time we might need to get up and running, and that's where operations has come in. We expect a 2-week prep time before we can start the service, and the city is looking at warmer weather. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. I think that's to be determined, and that's partially because the Public Health Department has recommended that the DOT shuttles have their windows open. So when we get to that point that that the windows can be open and customers can be comfortable on the DOT shuttle, I know that the city has been keeping in touch with us and is prepared to restart that. In the meantime, in-house, we have added the DOT shuttle in our scheduling, kind of in a back way, so that it can still be happening, so that we can pick up the DOT shuttle without having to do a whole entire schedule change. So basically, to comply with union regulations, we have been putting it in the scheduling component for our operators, but not showing it. And it's a little confusing, but the point is, we don't need to do an entire schedule change when the DOT shuttle comes back up. We will need to do a board bump, which means the seniority operators will have the option to choose to bump over to that schedule, and we'll be ready to go. So we're just following the city's timetable as to when they're comfortable.
I have a couple of questions. When will Garden City be able to implement those tax changes to allow us to extend the service? Are they going to be able to do that soon? Because I know they're on the same tax base we are, that they would have to have that on the bills by July 1st or June 1st, whatever their date is. Are they prepared to get to that point, or are we going to be running it basically as a deficit until they can get it passed?
Neither. We wouldn't be picking up the Garden City additional routes until we have a way to fund them. So
okay, so that could be a year from June.
We're following their lead.
Okay, and in reference to the DOT shuttle, what happens if they decide to come back with that when we're short drivers?
We actually
we really do need to set a firm date. We're talking about a driver shortage now, and now, potentially 8 or 10 new drivers are going to opt into that route, because I'm sure it takes at least 6 or 8 drivers to cover the DOT shuttle during the time of service. And we can't train them in 2 weeks. So,
and we've been discussing just that.
Yeah, this is becoming problematic, but I don't know how we get around it.
We have a meeting later on this week with Ms. Val and HR and operations to discuss just that, how to figure out how it's going to work in the operations side.
Okay. That's all I had.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question.
Yes, right there, Mr.
Bren, so it looks like we're going to be making about $70K a year from increased tax from these parcels. Will that match the expense of the extra service we're looking to add?
If Garden City chose to include those parcels in phase 1A and 1B, yes, the additional stops that we would want to cover would be covered by that $70,000 addition in tax base.
So we're not necessarily creating any more linear, we're not making a right turn or a left turn, we're just stopping more, pretty much?
That northern section in phase 1B, we would be making a left turn and a right turn into those industrial parks.
Okay.
And then for phase 2, that would be looking at new routes, possibility of extension, but there would be more research as to how those would work. But for phase 1A and B, we do basically go down those routes already, which is great.
Got it. Thank you.
Anthony, any other questions for Bren? If not, we'll move to the communications update with Ms. Frenny.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'll be really, really quick. We have all the January highlights in your board packets. We continue to publish the CAT Inbound Employee Newsletter, as well as the CAT Outbound Community Newsletter. We in January, we distributed 3 editions of the Inbound Newsletter. And I'm excited to say that every time I see a driver, we'll go out on the platform or over at CAT Central, they are excited about the newsletter and about being featured in it. We're going to do more features on the employees in those newsletters coming up. But the topics for January included Human Trafficking Prevention Month, the call center satisfaction survey, and our employee text notification system. Eric continues to do a really good job of publishing these newsletters and getting them out timely. Speaking of the employee text notification system, we implemented this system as yet another tool for engagement and as a way to keep employees updated on CAT happenings, specifically our drivers. We launched an internal engagement campaign to get our operators to sign up to receive the notifications. Once an operator signed up, they received a CAT branded face mask and hand sanitizer that they were encouraged to wear and use on the buses. I think the campaign was quite successful as we had 103 subscribers as of February 3rd. So we're almost halfway there of getting everybody signed up. Tondra Scott led this initiative and she did a fantastic job. In January, we also sold 553 passes online, amounting to $2,696 in revenue. We also implemented a human trafficking prevention campaign. The marketing team joined forces with agencies across the country to share information about human trafficking and prevention measures. As you know, public transit and transit in general, including like Greyhound, are ripe for human trafficking. So one of the things that we want to do is implement kind of if you see something, say something, report if you see something that just doesn't look right. And those efforts included social media posts, printed newsletters and press releases, and in addition to interior bus cards. We, before she was appointed interim CEO in her capacity as outreach manager, Valerie helped organize the 6th annual traffic jam in her capacity as a member of the Savannah Interagency Diversity Council. So we really wanted to make a splash about human trafficking during Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And I think we did a good job with that. Last but not least, considering we've had a lot of negative media this month, I'm glad to report that CAT's Black History Landmark Tour map has received some national media attention. A week ago today, Fox News sent down a team from New York to interview me and representatives from the First African Baptist Church, the Savannah African Art Museum, and the Beach Institute about our landmark tour. They spent the entire day with us on a CAT bus going around town to see the landmarks. And it will air. They just texted me a few minutes ago and said that the story will air tomorrow on Fox and Friends at 7:25 a.m. So you guys turn to Fox and Friends tomorrow to see this exciting interview. I'm really, really excited about that campaign. And we've gotten so much great feedback in the community. Each one of the locations that were featured have maps at their locations. We've printed about 1,500 of those maps and passed them out. They have been really a great hit. I guess the only place that we didn't pass them out is the cemetery. There's nobody there to pass them out. And that is my update. I am excited about tomorrow's story. I hope you all will watch. The marketing team is really excited about it as well. Everybody but Eric went out with Fox and News. Everybody on the team except for Eric, because he was here managing the YouTube site for our governance committee meeting. But everybody went out and participated. And I think it was a really, 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 really good day for CAT, and I'm looking forward to seeing the story tomorrow. That's my report. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Rennie, that's fantastic. That's it's definitely not this would probably be the first time I've tuned into Fox and Friends tomorrow morning, but I'm eager to do so and see some recognizable faces. How, I'm just trying to wonder, like, how can we duplicate this in the future? And that makes me think, like, how did Fox and Friends, how did they contact you? How did that work out? How did they find out about this?
Well, as most of you know, I guess I used to be a reporter. So once a reporter, you always have friends in the industry. And a really good friend of mine that I graduated from FAMU with is a producer at Fox and Friends. She's actually leaving on Friday to go to the Today Show. So hopefully we'll be able to get some stuff on the Today Show. But she's a good friend of mine, and I sent it to her, and they picked up on it as Fox was doing some Black History Month features all month. So I was just excited that they thought it was good enough to send someone down. They sent, now if you all watch Fox and Friends, they sent Lawrence Jones, who is one of their African-American correspondents here. It was his first time in Savannah. I have invited him back. He and his girlfriend have planned to come back this summer to see more of Savannah, more that Savannah has to offer. So that's how we got.
Pass him off to Joe Marinelli when he comes back down here, and we can have a.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I'm quite impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, I think that it was such a great joint effort putting this on. My question is, okay, where do we go next? Because we got other ethnic groups, we got other ethnic holidays. Once you do something like this, you cannot leave anybody out. So
you are absolutely correct. In the marketing team, we have been talking about that in length. We were talking about doing something very similar for St. Patrick's Day and celebrating all of our Irish landmarks. We're actually talking about doing something for Hispanic History Month, which is in October. So we have a team meeting tomorrow. We meet every Wednesday. We have a team meeting tomorrow where we'll discuss budget, and then we'll discuss also going forward, because this project really didn't cost us a whole lot of money in the big scheme of things. It was less than $6,000 to actually put it together. So we are talking about doing more. We've gotten some feedback from some others in the community, including the Women League of Voters, who wanted to do something with us for Women's History Month, but that's next month in a couple of days, and we just really didn't have time to get it together. Dr. Robinson, I do want to thank you for helping us and you and Valerie, for helping us get in touch with the Pastor Tillman at the First African Baptist Church, because Fox really wanted to go to the church, and we were having such a hard time getting anyone to call us back or email us back. And you both jumped on the phones and got that for us. So I appreciate your help. And I'm just looking forward to the story tomorrow to see how they put it together.
So does that mean I earned a face mask?
Yes, ma'am. I will make sure you get one. If we have to hand deliver it, I will make sure you get a cat face mask.
Thank you. I want one.
Okay. Actually, we'll get them to every board. I'm sorry, Valerie, but we can get them to every board member with the hand sanitizer, the accompanying hand sanitizer.
I was just going to say, Nikki, you were working it too. You were doing your due diligence, because when I was talking to Reverend Tillman, you were on the other line, so you
I
were working.
was with a deacon
One
from
of
the
his
church,
deacons, yeah.
Mr. Williams, I think, who has invited my husband and I to come meet him and his wife for dinner so they can marriage counsel us for some reason. But yes, we worked hard to get the church involved, and I really, really appreciate the team effort from you and Dr. Robinson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikki. Are there any other questions for Nikki? Now, there was an error. I don't know how Mr. Charles Hall's presentation was not included on the agenda, but he's our Chief Safety Officer, and he has just a quick presentation he'd like to make before the board. Mr. Hall.
Thank you very much. Let me try to share my screen. All right, everyone see it now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the CAT community, and the public at large. This is my brief and succinct safety report for the previous month. I'll start out, obviously, with COVID updates in the state of Georgia. There are 806,119 confirmed cases, 14,689 deaths, 54,883 hospitalizations, and 8,931 ICU admissions. Just in the past 24 hours, there are 1,331 confirmed cases, 56 deaths, 130 hospitalizations. Chatham County has reported 18,169 confirmed cases to date. That also includes 337 deaths, 1,446 hospitalizations. I would say that overall, the number of deaths are trending down. Perhaps that's attributed to vaccinations, which I'll move into. As you know, transportation workers are still in phase 1B. Currently, the state of Georgia is in phase 1A+. So that means we hadn't got to the B yet because of some shipments that hadn't come in, so they're still in the process of trying to process everyone in the first phase. We're hoping to be able to enter into phase 1B in March. As you may know, there was a federal mandate not too long ago where we are in adherence to. We strongly encourage passengers to wear masks on buses and even while at the ITC. That mandate did cover the facilities as well. Unfortunately, the mandate has not been revised to include enforcement expectations, and because, as Lenny said, because of our size, we don't have a transit police agency, but we're still trying to do what we can. We're totally relying on gaining voluntary compliance with this order. I'm only aware of one incident where a passenger was reluctant to don his mask, but he eventually complied. In more egregious situations, we already have a protocol in place where we can have the bus pull over, and as Lenny also mentioned, have both those open, hoping to gain either voluntary compliance or the passenger leaves, but we will be revoking riding privileges if necessary and request police intervention. As you can see, that is the actual verbiage from that mandate that was sent out to transit agencies via the CDC. And there was also an accompanying required face mask messaging that should be accompanying all buses. We're in the process of rolling that out as well. And that moves me on to risk management. As you know, each month I try to highlight one particular area we're having problems with in regards to risk management. Currently, CAT is handling 2 slip and falls during this fiscal year, which started in July and will go to the upcoming July. What is of note is that so far we've paid 92,442 claims just in 2 slip and fall incidents. We're trending along the tangent with the national average, which is approximately 57% of all claims. You would have thought it might have been a motor vehicle accident, but unfortunately it's slip and falls. But you can also have a slip and fall on a bus, so it doesn't really categorize, that part of the motor vehicle part. Some of the claims could have been preventable. Therefore, I will focus on slip and fall prevention and upcoming safety spotlights, as well as upcoming training. As I've mentioned previously, we're still focusing on our physical security as a part of the safety and security budgetary preparation and strategic plan composition. I'm continuing to reevaluate our physical security footprint. We're identifying immediate, short-term, and long-term needs. We're researching potential providers as well as seeking cost projections. We hope to have some immediate needs before the board within the next 30 days so we can start this process. And a couple of highlights for the month. As you know, we started our safety spotlight in outbound. This is a modality in which we can reach the CAT family with informative and safety security information. We have rolled out information about COVID-19 and the mask mandate and proper techniques for securing wheelchairs. We're also focusing on pre-trip inspection and, as I mentioned, slip and fall prevention. In addition to a safety spotlight, we are developing a framework for CAT University. This will be a training and development program that will be executed across multiple modalities and focus on andragogy principles to optimize effectiveness for the adult learner. We hope to launch the first series of courses mid-March or early April. That concludes my presentation. Are there any are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Hall.
you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
And we move on to our last departmental update, which will be the financial update from Gloria Royal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board directors. Just got to get a PowerPoint going here. Okay, our financial update for January 2020 is as follows. Next slide. Our revenue and expenditures for the month. For January, we have total revenues of 1.2 million, and we are 214,000 under the fiscal year 2021 adopted budget. As we were listening to our Chief Strategy Officer earlier, she was stating that some of our contract services we are not running, so we are not collecting 100% of the revenues that we would have been had we not been in COVID. Also, as we listen to Mr. Cooksey's report on service delivery, he pointed out that passenger counts were down, so therefore our fares remained down. Total expenditures for the month are 1.9, and we are under budget by 358,000. Our total expenditures over revenues are 778,000, adjusting for operating contingency year to date. Expenditures over revenues are 499,000 and $870,000 over adopted budget. Our next slide, please. Revenues by category. For the month of January, our largest receipts were from Chatham County for our paratransit service. Our percentage of revenue from paratransit service was 35.73% of our revenues. Grants received, or grant funding received for the month, 26.87%. We also collected special district taxes of 23.94%, and the remaining 13% in revenue received was from passenger fares, contract revenue, and our other category. Next slide, please. Our salaries and benefits equal 69% of expenses. Insurance is 12%. The remaining 19% consists of repairs, maintenance, supplies, fuel, utility, and service categories, which are all under 8% of total expenses for the month of January. Our next slide. These are our funding sources that we received receipts during the month of January. Special district tax, Chatham County, $279,000. Paratransit, Chatham County, $398,000. City of Savannah per occupancy rate for revenue from the ferry services that we operated, we only received $50,455, and FTA grant assistance, $313,000. Our operating cash balance as of January 31st, $6,257,000. Next slide, please. With our ending January balance being at $6,257,000, our projected cash balance for June 30th, 2021, $4,303,000. If we continue to monitor our expenses and remain within the adopted budget for fiscal year 2021, we do anticipate remaining on track for having an ending balance of $4,300,000 at the end of the fiscal year. This is providing there aren't any other unforeseen occurrences. This ends finance update for the month of January. Are there any questions?
Miss Gloria, this is Dr. Robinson.
Yes, ma'am.
On your financial overview page, when you talk about expenditures over revenue.
Yes, ma'am.
And the last line says expenditures over revenue are 499K and are 87K over adopted budget.
Expenses over budget, yes. Yes, ma'am.
So we get putting out more money than we've got coming in.
That's mainly because we have not been collecting any of the contract service revenues for the city shuttles because they're not operating, and fares. We were not collecting fares from July up until December the 1st. We were running fare free.
Okay, but I guess what I'm questioning is that when we say in the end, if we stick with what we're doing, we end up with a net balance.
Our cash balance, our balance in the bank.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So year end, fiscal year end, will we have money or not have money?
Okay, in the bank, we are anticipating having money
to operate with.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But we also say if there are no unforeseen occurrences, and we're hoping that we will start collecting more fares with more passengers actually coming on board.
Okay.
I have a quick question, Gloria. Does that 4.3 million include any revenues from the shuttle? We're not including those until they actually start the service back?
Until we actually start, correct.
And what about the two contracts with the ferry for the Westin and the Convention Center? When do those bills go out?
Now, we've already billed for the marine services for this fiscal year.
Okay.
So it will be next budget year before we can bill again.
Okay, so we got both of those already.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Gloria? Thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to make a note that I did send myself a note for the last board meeting where Director Stone had asked to see the budget with and without funding associated with COVID-19. And we are working toward that end. I haven't forgotten it. I did jot it down, and I will get that to you as soon as we can, as soon as we get involved in the process of preparing the next budget. So I just want you to know, Ms. Stone, that I didn't forget about that I did jot myself a note, as well as about Dr. O'Halloran's short-term and long-term strategic planning. So we're working on both of those projects, and we will be able to give a report, hopefully in the next board meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. And as I end this portion, before I turn it back over to the chairman, I just wanted to say, for me, sometimes I'd have to encourage myself. And I read this quote I'd like to share with you. It's written by Amanda Gorman, and it says, "We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside." And that really encouraged me, and I hope it encourages you as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the chairman.
I want to thank you for that, Ms. Ragland.
Yes, sir.
I also want to thank you and your staff for providing the board with their updates. We're looking forward to hearing what's more to come. It's always good to receive the updates across the agency.
Yes, sir.
That being said, we are going into 7, which is chairman's item. What's going to refer to the notes from the memo. I want to put out there about the compensation of
Chairman, you're muted.
all right. All right,
I
so
don't think we got most of it.
you go back. So what I wanted to do was see if we were supposed to go into the compensation package. I wanted to go into the compensation package for the interim CEO. And I wanted to know, should we make a motion to retroact to pay for the interim CEO on a monthly structure, which is basically 75,000 divided by 12, as Dr. Holleran said earlier. With that being said, I want to know, should we take a motion on this today? Or should we wait until after Friday?
I would make that motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Yeah, because Chairman, this is
Yeah.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes,
because
Doctor.
I don't see the reason to wait. I just think that we should go ahead and do it, and because she's doing the job.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
That's
We have a motion and a second. Beverly?
Yes, sir. Director Emister?
Was there any discussion before we vote?
I'm not sure that the motion precisely stated what it is you're voting on.
We want to vote on putting our interim CEO on a monthly structure basis for the duration of the time for interim CEO.
At what
A
level of
bonus
what?
type.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
You want to redo the motion?
Yeah.
What was that?
You want to redo the amend the motion if we have to?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should include it that it's a bonus.
Yes.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I'll make that part of my motion to increase her salary to 145,000 divided up as a monthly bonus.
Second.
Beverly?
Yes, sir. Okay. Director Leggett?
Yes.
Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
Director Emister?
Yes.
Director Lockett?
Yes.
Director Adams? Director Stone, Director Stone?
Yes.
Okay. Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director
Yes.
Odell,
Yes.
and just for the record, Director Adams, I believe, is not present during the vote at this time. Motion passed.
Thank you. All right, moving into old business, I want to know, do we have any old business or motions to consider? All right. That being said, I want to take this opportunity to say that under all of what's going on and confusion of the situation, I want to reaffirm our community and the employees of Chatham Area Transit that we have a 9-member board. And as a 9-member board, I believe that every one of our members are working for the people of this organization and for the community of this organization. I think that we have some work to do to move this agency in the proper direction, but I appreciate everybody's opinion, regardless of what it is. We have to realize that we all have our own opinions. And with that being said, I would like us to begin this journey together. I still believe in every member of this board, and I respect the fact that you do stand for the people of this community and this organization. And I'm gonna close with I want everybody to have a great day, a great week, and I'm gonna join this Dr. Halloran.
Yeah, just can we get an official clarification on the legal services for CAT documented in the board minutes?
All right.
That we are no longer using Jackson Lewis, even though they billed us after we had the vote of the board in November.
Yes. Do we want to take a motion on that?
I think we already voted on it and we awarded that contract to Buhan and Falligan. So
we did.
Under what
Staff
basis?
has to be aware
Why
of
do
it.
why you need to bring it back up if we've already made an action on it?
Because people are still contacting Jackson Lewis
But
for
you
legal
didn't need
services.
you didn't have to bring that up. We already made an action on that.
And we're
actually that was a
violating our
question. That was, but that's something that we should have already said in executive session. You shouldn't have to bring that back up.
It's not executive session.
I said we should have spoke about that executive session.
We're still using another company that's no longer a
Man, y'all need
reference
to
for us.
you just probably just need to move to adjourn and close them up. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
Well, we don't care if you want to hear it. The staff should not be
But
using Jackson
guess
Lewis.
what? I don't know who you.
We can.
They are billing us for December and January when they were not legally our counsel.
All right, we can bring this up in.
Dedrick, you were muted the whole time. You were muted the whole time.
Yeah, well, I apologize for that, but I'm saying don't keep bringing up stuff that don't make sense. I mean, we had a good meeting until he opened his mouth.
Point of order. We're gonna move on, and we will take that in consideration, Dr. O. We'll put that on the schedule. We'll put that on the agenda for another meeting. Beverly, did you get everything? Because we do want to clarify what's going on with our attorney fees. I agree with that. So at this time, I want to adjourn this meeting, and everybody have a great day.